Hello and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to break down different types of runs and the best runs to try out as a beginner runner. I started running just over a year ago and I am now training for my first marathon, but I still consider myself a beginner runner because I am in the early days of running according to the running community, okay? Because some of these people have been running for decades and I'm not there. I'm very, very new to this. So I wanted to tell you the best type of runs that I found throughout my journey from where I started to where I'm at now. Before I started running, I honestly thought that running was just like you go and then you stop when you're tired and that's it. I had no idea that there were so many small details inside of running. I had no idea that there were different running styles, but it turns out that there are many different types of runs. If you're a beginner runner, you might be thinking, I am not advanced, I'm not training for a marathon. Why do I need to know any of this? I thought the same thing, but understanding different types of runs will help you to create more structure in your running plan. It'll also help you get better at running, get more distance, and reach any goals that you're trying to achieve within your running journey. Also, I'm so sorry if I'm a little stuffy. I have been getting over a cold for like 3 days and I feel crazy. I feel like I sound like so nasally right now, so hopefully it's not annoying. I'm sorry. So the 5 runs that I incorporate into my training are speed runs, tempo runs, long runs, interval runs, and easy/recovery runs, which some people call conversational pace. First 3 runs I didn't implement into my training plan until I got comfortable with running, but I still want to break them down just a little bit for you guys. So speed runs are workouts that include short periods of fast running alongside recovery periods. This process is repeated until you get to the desired mileage. So for me, usually my speed runs are 9 miles in total. I do a 2-mile warm up, a 2 to 3 mile cool down, and then I'll do 800 meters with a small recovery window in between each speed portion. But for speed runs, you are running the entire run. You shouldn't be walking during the recovery portion of a speed run. These runs are designed to increase your aerobic abilities and really help you to push past the hard parts of running, because in your head, when you're doing speed runs, the whole time you're like, I'm done, I wanna go. But it's really nice because it helps you to push through other periods of running. And even with long runs, like I can pull back and think about my speed runs when I'm going into long runs, and it really helps me a lot. So the next run is tempo runs. They're done slightly faster than your easy pace. Most people pace these for whatever race that they're doing. So for me, I'm training for a marathon. So all of my tempo runs are at marathon pace. These runs really help to increase your endurance, but they also help a lot with making sure that you know what to expect on race day. Personally, I'm iffy with tempo runs. Sometimes I like them and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I really, really don't like them, if I'm being honest. So next, long runs. Long runs are exactly how they sound. They are just a very long run. These are meant to be at a slower pace than tempo or speed runs because you should be able to maintain that run for a very long time. So you don't want to be running like a speed run pace or speed run style while you're doing a long run, because you're going to be out there for a good amount of time and you don't want to burn yourself out. So it's better to make sure that when you're doing long runs, you're actually taking your time, you're going at a good, easy pace, and yeah. So something to touch on with long runs is that what you might consider to be a long run might be different than what I consider to be a long run, or even someone that's training for like an ultra marathon. If you're just starting out, a long run could honestly just be like a 5K, and that's okay. You want to start out with a long run that's going to be reasonable for you for whatever place that you're at with your running journey. These 3 runs, you can implement them at any time of your journey if you want to. Personally, I waited because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to get injured. I wanted to make sure that I was comfortable. I started my running journey when I was still in the beginning of my weight loss fitness journey, so I really didn't want to go into a running journey with really, really heavy runs. I also wasn't active most of my life, so when I first started running, I was really nervous and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do this for very long, but here we are. Those other type of runs can be something that you incorporate now. They can be something that you incorporate later on. But now we're gonna talk about the runs that I think are important for a beginner runner, which are interval runs and easy runs. I would say interval runs are akin to speed training because it's kind of the same style. You run, recover, run, recover. But with interval runs, when you're first starting a running journey, you want the intervals to be that you run for as long as you can at a moderate speed and then fully recover, so walk. And a lot of people feel weird about walking when it comes to running, but honestly, it helps so much. Even now when I'm training for a marathon, I still do these style of intervals where I'll run for a distance and walk, run for a distance and walk. And I know a lot of people say you're running for blah, 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 you shouldn't be walking, but don't listen to anybody that's telling you any of that, okay? The way that I learned to run the distance that I can now is by doing interval runs and by allowing myself to walk when I really needed to. I'm at the point now with interval runs where I do a pyramid style interval run. So it looks like I run a 10K and then I walk for however long I need to recover, and then I run 5 miles, and then I walk for however long, 4 miles, you know, all the way down till I'm done basically. And sometimes I'll switch it up. I'll do a 3 mile, 2 mile, 1 mile run, 3 mile, 2 mile, 1 mile run with recovery in between. And for those recoveries, I walk. But if you're just starting out as a beginner, I would recommend doing a 4 split run where you do like a half mile walk, half mile walk, half mile walk. I will say though, the pace and distance are going to be individual because everyone's at different levels. So I would go outside and see how far you can run. If you're able to run a mile, then you can do mile intervals. If you're able to do 2, you can do 2 mile intervals. Once you start getting into higher miles, it kind of gets a little tricky. I noticed that once I hit like 2.5 hours, I'm burnt out no matter the distance of the interval. Even if I'm getting to the walking portions, I try to cap myself at a 2.5 hour run, and I usually only do those on the weekends once in a while, okay? Because those are very difficult workouts once you start getting into them. Yeah, so like I said, if you're just starting out, I recommend trying out a 4 split run where you run a half mile, then you recover, run a half mile, recover, run a half mile, recover. And then every 2 weeks, I would try to increase it either by 5 minutes or a quarter of a mile, whichever one is the most comfortable, whichever one you're able to do. So now we're moving on to easy runs. Where interval runs are more akin to speed training, I would say the easy runs are closer to your long runs. And easy runs to me are a really great way to create an internal cruise control. That's how I see it in my head. A lot of times when we first start running, we have a tendency to go out the gate super fast. And with every single run that you do, you should be going out as slow as possible. When we go out the gate super fast, we often tend to burn ourselves out both physically and emotionally, mentally, and all those kinds of things. So I say this in most of my videos, but when you first start out on any run, it should feel like you're almost walking. That's what I do. I will start out super slow. I usually increase my pace a very slight amount. Like I'll go very minimally faster on my easy runs, and I still incorporate easy runs into my schedule. I usually do those more recovery runs after a long run. So because I'm training for a marathon, I run 5 to 6 days a week. So that means that I usually have 3 days of really difficult or really hard runs, and then the other 2 runs are recovery runs. So it'll be like I run a speed run and then I do a recovery run, a long run, a recovery run, and then a tempo run, and another recovery run if I'm running 6 days. In my opinion, I actually think a lot of people can run a lot further than they think, but I really think that it's just about pacing yourself in the very beginning. You want to start out slow and make sure that you have a really comfortable feeling in your body and that you can breathe, because if you start out running and you can't breathe, you're not going to make it very far. I know from experience. So something I've noticed personally about getting my easy pace down is that it's given me a lot of confidence as a runner, because it's shown me that I can go further than I think. And it really teaches you how to get past a lot of mental blocks, because once you start running and you can run like a 10K and you can run 10 miles and you can run 12 miles, you're running a half marathon, it's so interesting to see how your mind shifts around what you think is difficult and what you think isn't. I honestly feel like easy runs are the platform for all of those. Now, I'm not saying that you have to stick to all of these types of runs. I think that it's really important as a beginner to know what the runs mean. You can understand exactly what they all do, but I also think it's important to make sure that you have a really good base and good form before you go into harder runs or more difficult on your body runs, the speed, the tempo, or the long runs, because those are the type of runs that tend to give people injuries. After all of this, I will say my favorite type of run is going to be a tempo run through and through. I think it's the best way to learn how to run consistently. I think it's the easiest way to learn how to run, because a lot of times we go into running and we just go into it with such an intense mindset that it's like, I'm gonna go out and run 5 miles today. And then when you can't do it because you've never trained for it, you feel discouraged. But that's why interval runs are really great, because they teach you to still get the miles in without completely burning yourself out. And then as you get along, you can increase the mileage, you can increase the distance, and then you start to feel even more confident as a runner. If you're planning on running to get more active and you don't have any specific training in mind, you might not need to implement such specific types of training into your running schedule. It could just be fun to like spice it up if your runs start to get boring, or if you do decide one day that you want to start to get more distance in, or to just try something harder. When I first started running, I would just go outside and run like a mile or 2, and then I would just do that 2 or 3 times a week, and that did help me out a lot. But I found that once I had other ideas and other runs that I had to look forward to, it made it a lot more enjoyable for me, and I really had a great time. Even now, I look forward to certain types of runs, and then I also surprise myself myself. Like last week I ran a speed run that was like one of the best runs I ever had, and I despise speed runs. But it's interesting to see how much you change throughout a running journey, and when you implement different types of runs, it helps you to track your progress in a different type of way. Just for a little recap, we've got speed runs, tempo runs, long runs, interval runs, and easy runs. And like I said, the first 3 runs are runs that you can implement at any point in your journey. I would say to start out with interval running and easy running, just to get yourself comfortable and to see how you feel in your body. And then as you start making a training plan or getting a training plan from someone, you could refer back to this video for some information on the runs that I explained today. Most of the information that I got about these runs are from this book, The Hanson Marathon Method. I told you guys I would bring it up again. And now that I am halfway through, I've been reading it like at a snail's pace. I feel like I can give you more information on the runs that I've been doing lately and the information that I've learned about the runs that I've been doing. So if you guys want to learn more about running, this book I think is a really great tool to use. It's very informative. If you don't like reading books like this, this book is very boring. It's very factual, but I like those types of books, especially when I'm doing something or when I'm training for something. I like to sit down and just read and see and get it in my own head, in my own words, if that makes sense. So yeah, this is a really great tool. If you want to read it, pick it up. Hanson Marathon Method. This is the 2nd edition. But yeah, so I hope that this video was helpful, and next week we're gonna probably do another vlog because I'm just really, the vlog I did last week was so fun to make. It did take me like a couple of days to make, but I was really enjoying it. And I just want to say I really appreciate you guys giving such lovely comments on the videos. I have been trying to get into YouTube for a very long time, and I just always feel like insecure about it because I'm like, nobody's gonna watch these videos, but you guys like them, and I am so happy because I love making them. I've been creative for a very long time, and I felt like it was weird for me to make content about running as a creative person, but it turns out that they go together very well because I get to create by making content, but I also get to talk about something really cool and fun that I'm doing. So yeah. If you guys have any questions or any content that you want to see from me, please let me know, and I will see you guys next week for another video. Bye!